Welcome back, American Coin Hunter. All right, now settle in because this is going to be a deep, flowing, story-style journey into the 2014 D1 cent coin, told exactly the way long-form YouTube coin videos are loved by collectors and viewers around the world, with no breaks, no captions, no headings. Just one continuous powerful narrative that keeps people listening from the first second to the very last word. Imagine holding a small copper-colored coin in your hand, something most people would ignore, something that might be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or even lost between couch cushions. Yet this tiny piece of metal carries a story that stretches across centuries of American history, modern minting technology, rare minting mistakes, and shocking market rumors that have caused collectors to whisper numbers as high as $253 million. Yes, a single 1 cent coin. The 2014 D Lincoln penny, a coin that on the surface looks ordinary, but under the right light, with the right error, and in the right condition, becomes one of the most talked about modern cents in the collecting world. The 2014 D1 cent coin was struck at the Denver Mint, and the small letter D just below the date is more important than many people realize, because it tells us exactly where this coin was born, deep inside the Denver Mint, a facility that has been producing U.S. coins since 1906. And over the decades has developed a reputation for high output, precision strikes, and yet, just like every mint in the world, occasional human and mechanical errors that slip through quality control, creating accidental treasures that collectors chase for decades. This coin belongs to the Lincoln Shield Cent series, which replaced the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 2010, and that change alone already gives the 2014 D penny a special place in U.S. coin history. Because the shield design represents unity, strength, and Lincoln's role in preserving the Union, and the design itself is deeply symbolic, with 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies, joined together by a horizontal bar across the top, carrying the bold inscription E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. And when you realize how much meaning is packed into a coin worth just 1 cent, you begin to understand why collectors are so passionate about these pieces. On the obverse side, we see the familiar and timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, making the Lincoln cent the longest-running portrait design in U.S. coinage history. And on the 2014 D penny, Lincoln faces to the right, with the word Liberty clearly visible to the left of his profile, and the date 2014 along with the mint mark D placed to the right. And although this design has been seen for more than a century, modern strikes like the 2014 D can show incredible detail when struck properly, from the sharp lines in Lincoln's coat to the subtle shaping of his hair and jawline. Weight of the 2014 D1 cent coin is 2.5 grams, because it is made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, a composition that has been used since 1982 when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to change the metal content of the cent. And while many collectors prefer the older solid copper cents, the modern zinc cents have produced some of the most dramatic and valuable mint errors ever seen, especially when it comes to plating issues, missing copper layers, exposed zinc cores, and dramatic off-metal appearances that can instantly turn a common penny into a 5-figure or 6-figure collectible. The diameter of the coin is 19.05 millimeters, and the edge is plain, smooth, and unreeded. But despite these standard specifications, what truly matters with the 2014 D cent is not what it was supposed to be, but what it accidentally became during the minting process, because that is where the story turns from ordinary to extraordinary. Mint errors on the 2014 D penny are the heart of its legend, and collectors have reported and authenticated multiple types of errors that dramatically increase the value of this coin, including doubled dies, die cracks, die breaks, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, and perhaps the most visually stunning of all, missing or partial copper plating errors, where the zinc core is exposed and gives the coin a silver or dull gray appearance, sometimes with streaks, bubbles, or peeling copper that looks almost alive under magnification. One of the most famous and talked about errors for the 2014 D cent is the doubled die obverse, where mechanical doubling during the die creation process causes letters and numbers to appear doubled, especially noticeable in the date, the word Liberty, and the motto I in God We Trust. And while minor doubling is common on modern cents, Strong, well-defined doubled dies are rare, and when one is found on a Denver minted coin, it immediately attracts serious attention from advanced collectors and grading services. Another dramatic error involves major die cracks and retained cud breaks, where the die used to strike the coin begins to crack or break apart after being used thousands of times, and instead of being replaced immediately, continues to strike coins, leaving raised lines, blobs, or missing sections on the finished coins. And some 2014 descents have been discovered with massive cracks running through the shield, across Lincoln's face, or even splitting letters in half, creating one-of-kind pieces that cannot be duplicated. Then there are off-center strikes, where the planchet is not properly aligned when struck, resulting in coins that show only part of the design, sometimes with dramatic blank areas. And when the date and mint mark are still visible on an off-center 2014 descent, the value can skyrocket, especially if the off-center percentage is large and visually striking. Wrong planchet errors are another category that fuels the big money rumors surrounding this coin. Because if a 2014 descent were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coin, the result would be a mint error of extreme rarity. And while confirmed examples are few, even the possibility of such errors drives collectors to examine every 2014 D penny they come across with magnification and precision scales. Now, let's talk about the market value, because this is where things become explosive, confusing, and sometimes controversial. In normal circulated condition, a standard 2014 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent, and even in uncirculated rolls, most examples sell for only a small premium. But when condition improves and errors appear, the story changes completely. High-grade examples graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC can sell for several dollars, tens of dollars, or even more if the strike quality is exceptional. But error coins exist in a completely different universe of value. Documented and authenticated 2014 D error cents have sold for hundreds, thousands, and in some cases tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the severity and uniqueness of the error. And this is where rumors, headlines, and viral videos have taken things even further, with discussions of ultra-rare specimens, experimental strikes, or unique error combinations that have led to speculative valuations reaching into the millions, and even the staggering figure of $253 million has been mentioned in extreme collector circles and online discussions, not as a confirmed sale price, but as a theoretical valuation tied to a hypothetical one-of-one error combined with perfect preservation, historical significance, and intense demand from elite collectors and institutions. It is important to understand that coin collecting is driven not only by metal and rarity, but by story, mystery, and human emotion. And when a coin captures public imagination, its perceived value can grow beyond traditional price guides, especially in an era where social media. Now let us continue deeper into this journey, because the story of the 2014 D1 cent coin does not end with basic facts or commonly known errors. In fact, this is where the mystery becomes even more intense, where collectors, dealers, and researchers begin to argue, analyze, and sometimes completely disagree. And that tension itself is what keeps this coin alive in conversations year after year. When the Denver Mint was producing the 2014 cents, millions upon millions of planchets were fed into high-speed presses every single day, each press striking coins at incredible speed, sometimes hundreds per minute. And while modern minting technology is extremely advanced, it is still dependent on physical components like dies, collars, feeders, and planchets, all of which can fail in subtle ways that only reveal themselves after thousands of strikes. And this is why many of the most dramatic errors appear late in a die's life, when stress fractures, metal fatigue, and microscopic damage finally manifest as visible mistakes on the finished coin. Some 2014 D pennies have been discovered with what collectors call progressive die deterioration, where early strikes show small cracks, later strikes show larger breaks, and final strikes show massive cuds or missing design elements. And when collectors manage to assemble multiple coins from the same damaged die, it becomes almost like assembling a timeline of destruction, a physical record of how the die slowly failed. In coins like these are extremely attractive to advanced error collectors because they tell a story rather than just showing a single mistake. There are also reports of 2014 D cents with rotated dies, where the reverse design is rotated away from its normal alignment relative to the obverse. And while slight rotation is not uncommon, dramatic rotations of 30 degrees, 60 degrees, or even more are far rarer and instantly increase desirability, especially when combined with other errors like doubling or die. Cracks. Because multi-error coins are exponentially rarer than single-error pieces, another area that fascinates collectors is strike quality. Because even without obvious errors, some 2014 D cents exhibit unusually sharp strikes, with crisp details on Lincoln's hair, ear, and coat, and fully defined lines on the shield. And when these coins are preserved in perfect or near-perfect condition, they can achieve top population grades like MS69 or even the elusive MS70. And while such coins are not errors, they represent the absolute pinnacle of modern cent production and command strong premiums in the market. The conversation around extreme valuations often comes from the idea of a unique specimen, a hypothetical 2014 D cent that combines multiple major errors, perfect preservation, and verified authenticity. Imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet, with a dramatic off-center strike, visible double die elements, and full mint luster, all preserved in pristine condition. Such a coin would not just be a collectible, it would be a museum-level artifact, something that institutions, wealthy collectors, and even private foundations might compete to own. And in scenarios like this, traditional price guides become irrelevant, replaced instead by private negotiations and speculative valuations. This is how numbers like $253 million enter the conversation, not as confirmed sales, but as theoretical ceilings based on extreme rarity, uniqueness, and the psychology of ultra-wealthy collectors. And while many people dismiss such figures as unrealistic, history has shown that truly unique objects can defy logic, especially when they sit at the intersection of history, money, and human error. The zinc composition of the 2014 D cent also plays a major role in error formation, because zinc is softer and more reactive than copper, making it prone to corrosion, blistering, and plating failures, and over time, environmental exposure can exaggerate existing mint errors, creating dramatic visual effects that attract attention. Although collectors must be careful to distinguish between genuine mint errors and post-mint damage, a distinction that often requires expert knowledge and professional authentication. Authentication itself is a critical part of the modern coin market, because as values rise, so does the incentive for fraud, altered coins, and misrepresented errors. And reputable grading services use advanced tools like microscopy, weight analysis, and metallurgical testing to confirm whether a 2014 D cent is genuinely rare or simply damaged after leaving the mint. And coins that pass this scrutiny gain not only a grade, but credibility, which is often the difference between a coin worth a few dollars and one worth thousands or more. The history of Lincoln cents adds emotional weight to the 2014 D penny, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying into a legacy that began in 1909, survived world wars, economic depressions, technological revolutions, and cultural shifts, and continues into the present day. And the shield reverse design symbolizes unity in a time when unity itself is often debated, giving modern cents a subtle but powerful cultural relevance. Many collectors believe that modern coins are undervalued simply because they are new. But history has repeatedly proven that yesterday's pocket change can become tomorrow's treasure, and the 2014 D penny sits at that crossroads, old enough to have developed known varieties and errors, yet young enough that many examples are still hiding in circulation, waiting to be discovered by someone curious enough to look closely. Roll hunting has become a popular hobby partly because of coins like this. People ordering boxes of cents from banks, spending hours searching through thousands of coins, driven by the hope that one unusual piece might change everything. And countless stories exist of collectors finding valuable errors not in auctions or collections, but in ordinary bankrolls, gas station change, or inherited jars of coins, reinforcing the idea that treasure hunting is still alive in the modern world. And as we move even further into this story, the 2014 D1 cent coin begins to reveal something deeper than metal, weight, or error classifications. It begins to reveal the psychology of collecting itself, because coins like this do not become legendary simply because they exist. They become legendary because people believe in their potential, study them obsessively, and pass their stories from one collector to another until the line between fact, rarity, and legend starts to blur within the world of modern Lincoln cents. The Denver Mint issues have always carried a unique reputation, sometimes for consistency, sometimes for unexpected surprises, and the 2014 D penny sits right in the middle of that reputation, because while millions were struck, only a microscopic fraction display the kind of anomalies that turn ordinary copper-plated zinc into objects of obsession. And it is that microscopic fraction that drives endless searching, discussion, and debate. One of the most overlooked aspects of the 2014 descent is die polish lines, extremely fine lines left on the die when it is polished to extend its life. And on some coins these lines appear strong enough to be mistaken for doubling or damage. But in rare cases, excessive die polishing can actually remove parts of the design, creating weak letters, missing details, or distorted shapes. And when this happens in specific areas like Lincoln's eye, beard, or the shield lines, the result is a coin that looks dramatically different from normal examples, sparking immediate interest among specialists. There are also cents from this year and mint that show unusual surface textures, sometimes described as orange peel or rough fields, caused by improper metal flow during striking. And while surface quality is often associated with condition, these textures can sometimes indicate deeper minting anomalies related to planchet preparation or die condition, adding another layer of complexity to evaluating these coins. The weight of 2.5 grams becomes incredibly important here, because even a deviation of a few tenths of a gram can signal something unusual: a thinner copper plating, an incomplete zinc core, or even a wrong alloy. And collectors who take this seriously use digital scales capable of measuring hundredths of a gram, turning what looks like a simple penny into a scientific specimen. Analyzed with precision and patience under magnification, the 2014 D penny can reveal worlds invisible to the naked eye. Tiny raised dots that might indicate gas bubbles trapped under the copper plating, microscopic cracks forming early in the die's life, or faint doubling that only appears at certain angles of light. And this is where experienced collectors separate themselves from casual observers, because they know how to tilt, rotate, and light a coin to let its secrets emerge naturally. Another fascinating aspect of this coin story is how modern errors are cataloged and named, because unlike classic errors from the early 20th century, modern varieties are still being discovered, debated, and sometimes reclassified, meaning that a 2014 D penny found today could receive a different interpretation tomorrow as knowledge evolves and more examples are studied. And this fluidity adds excitement, but also uncertainty to the market. Market behavior around modern error cents has changed dramatically in the last decade, driven largely by online platforms, video content, and instant global communication. A coin discovered in one country can be analyzed by experts across the world within hours, and auction results can be seen by thousands of potential buyers instantly, amplifying demand and sometimes inflating perceived value. And the 2014 descent has benefited from this exposure, becoming a recurring subject in viral posts and long-form videos that fuel curiosity and hope. The idea of life-changing value is especially powerful, because the penny is the lowest denomination of U.S. currency, often dismissed as useless or annoying. And yet here it is, associated with dreams of extreme wealth. And that contrast alone captures attention, making people want to believe that something so small and overlooked could carry unimaginable worth. Historically, many of the most valuable coins were not created intentionally. They were born from mistakes, misunderstandings, or transitional periods. And when collectors look at the 2014 D penny, they see a modern parallel to famous errors of the past: coins that were once ignored or spent freely, only to become legends decades later. And this historical pattern reinforces the belief that modern cents should not be underestimated. Even the debate around eliminating the penny adds fuel to the fire, because if the 1-cent coin were ever discontinued, surviving examples would instantly become artifacts of a closed chapter in monetary history. And error coins from the final decades of production could become especially desirable, representing the last expressions of a denomination that lasted more than 2 centuries. Storage and preservation also play a critical role in determining value, because zinc cents are notoriously vulnerable to environmental damage, humidity, and improper handling, and a 2014 D penny with a genuine mint error that has been carefully preserved in a dry, stable environment will always outperform one that has been exposed to moisture or contamination, even if the error itself is identical, reminding collectors that rarity alone is not enough. Condition is equally powerful. Stories continue to circulate about individuals who unknowingly spent rare error cents, only to later realize what they had lost. And while some of these stories are exaggerated, they serve as cautionary tales that reinforce careful examination and patience, and they also contribute to the mythos surrounding coins like the 2014 D cent, turning them into symbols of missed opportunity and hidden fortune. What makes this coin especially compelling is that its story is not finished. New errors can still surface, new varieties can still be documented, and market perceptions can still shift, meaning that the 2014 D penny remains alive in a way that ancient coins no longer are. It is still interacting with the present, still being discovered, still being argued over, and so the narrative continues, not just as a description of a coin, but as a reflection of how humans assign meaning and value, how mistakes become treasures, how ordinary objects become extraordinary through attention and belief, and how a single cent, stamped in 2014 with a small letter D, continues to inspire searching eyes, hopeful hearts, and endless conversation in the world of coin collecting. And as this long story moves forward, the 2014 D1 cent coin begins to feel less like an object and more like a living idea, something that evolves as knowledge grows and as people interact with it. Because coins do not exist in isolation, they exist in hands, in pockets, in collections, and in the imagination of those who study them. And that is especially true for a modern cent surrounded by rumors of extreme rarity and unimaginable value. One of the most powerful forces shaping the reputation of the 2014 D penny is comparison. Collectors naturally compare it to other famous Lincoln cent errors, such as the 1955 doubled die, the 1972 doubled die, and even modern legends like the 1992 close AM. And when these comparisons are made, people begin to ask the same question again and again. What if the next legendary cent is hiding in plain sight right now? And that question keeps the spotlight firmly on coins like the 2014 when collectors examine large groups of 2014 D cents. Together, subtle patterns sometimes emerge, clusters of similar die cracks, repeating doubling characteristics, or shared weaknesses in certain design elements, suggesting that specific dies were responsible for multiple varieties. And this kind of pattern recognition is crucial because it allows researchers to confirm that an anomaly is not random damage, but a repeatable mint-produced feature, which instantly elevates its credibility and value. Technology has also transformed how these coins are studied. High-resolution photography, digital microscopes, and online databases allow collectors to document and share discoveries in unprecedented detail. And a single unusual 2014 D cent can now be photographed, measured, weighed, and analyzed by experts thousands of miles away, turning private finds into public knowledge almost instantly. And this rapid dissemination of information accelerates the creation of legends. Another fascinating dimension of this coin story is the role of timing. Coins discovered early in a variety's life cycle often sell for less because the market has not yet caught up to their significance. But as awareness grows and supply is confirmed to be limited, prices can rise dramatically. And many believe that the 2014 D penny is still in the early to middle stages of this process, where knowledge is spreading but full scarcity has not yet been realized. The idea of a $253 million valuation, while extreme, reflects a deeper truth about collecting. Value is not fixed, it is negotiated, imagined, and sometimes inflated by belief. And while most collectors understand that such a figure represents a hypothetical extreme, it still serves a purpose. It pushes people to look closer, to take the coin seriously, and to imagine possibilities beyond traditional limits. Economics also play a role here. During times of uncertainty or inflation, tangible assets like rare coins often receive renewed attention. And even though a penny seems insignificant, a rare penny is a form of portable history, something that can be owned, displayed, and passed down. and the 2014 descent exists at the intersection of modern production and potential long-term collectability, making it attractive to both traditional numismatists and newer investors. Education within the hobby has grown alongside interest. Collectors today are more informed than ever, learning about die stages, hubbing processes, and planchet preparation, and this knowledge empowers them to identify genuine errors with confidence, reducing reliance on hearsay and increasing respect for well-documented discoveries. And the 2014 Penny has become a teaching tool in this sense, an example used to explain how modern errors occur and how to properly evaluate them. The emotional connection to the Lincoln cent cannot be ignored either. Abraham Lincoln represents honesty, unity, and perseverance, values that resonate deeply, and when his portrait appears on a coin, associated with hidden potential and surprise, it creates a powerful symbolic link between national identity and personal discovery, making the act of searching through pennies feel meaningful rather than trivial. Many seasoned collectors advise patience when dealing with modern coins, because hype can fade as quickly as it rises. But they also acknowledge that every era produces its own legends, and that dismissing modern cents outright has proven to be a mistake in the past. And the 2014 penny sits right in that gray area, where caution and excitement coexist. Stories continue to circulate of collectors finding unusual 2014 cents in unexpected places, mixed into rolls of older coins, left behind in cash registers, or tucked away in collections assembled without much scrutiny. And while not every story leads to a confirmed treasure, the sheer number of searches increases the odds that something remarkable will eventually surface. What keeps this narrative alive is possibility. The possibility that a unique combination of errors has not yet been found, the possibility that a pristine example still waits in circulation, the possibility that future collectors will look back at this period and wonder why more people did not pay attention. And that sense of unfinished business is what makes the 2014 penny more than just another modern coin. And as this part of the journey settles, one thing becomes clear: the 2014 1-cent coin is not defined solely by what is known today, but by what may still be discovered tomorrow. And in the world of numismatics, that open-ended future is often the most valuable thing of all. And now, as the story keeps unfolding, we move into the human side of the 2014 1-cent coin, because no coin becomes famous on its own. It becomes famous through people, through curiosity, obsession, disappointment, hope, and sometimes obsession that lasts for years. And this penny has quietly woven itself into all of that without ever asking for attention. Many collectors remember the first time they truly looked at a modern penny under magnification, the surprise of seeing textures, lines, and details that were invisible before. And for many of them, the 2014 cent was one of those coins that sparked a deeper interest, because it sits close enough to the present to feel reachable, yet far enough away to already have a developing history of its own. Dealers often describe modern-era coins as emotional lightning, because they ignite sudden excitement. And the 2014 penny has done exactly that. In countless small transactions, someone walks into a shop with a handful of cents, expecting nothing, and suddenly the conversation changes when a strange surface, an unusual weight, or a distorted letter appears. And even if that coin does not turn out to be extremely valuable, the moment itself creates a memory that ties that person to the hobby forever. There is also a quiet tension between traditional collectors and modern-era enthusiasts. Some prefer classic silver and gold, dismissing zinc cents as unworthy, while others argue that errors represent the purest form of rarity because they were never intended to exist. And the 2014 penny often becomes a point of debate in these discussions, a symbol of how the hobby evolves with time and technology. The sheer volume of coins produced in 2014 adds another layer of intrigue, because high mintage usually means low value. Yet error collecting turns that logic upside down. The more coins produced, the more chances for something to go wrong. And when something goes wrong in just the right way, rarity is created. Inside abundance, a paradox that fascinates collectors and keeps them searching through mountains of ordinary. Since the Denver Mint's environment, climate, and production pace also play subtle roles, differences in humidity, temperature, and equipment can influence how dies behave and how planchets respond to striking pressure. And while these factors are rarely documented in detail, Their effects can sometimes be seen in the coins themselves, leaving clues for those who know how to read. The online communities have amplified the life of the 2014 D-penny. Forums, comment sections, and video platforms are filled with images, theories, and debates, some accurate, some exaggerated, but all contributing to the coin's presence in the public consciousness. And once a coin reaches that stage, it rarely fades completely. Even if market values fluctuate, the phrase, "check your change," has become almost a mantra because of coins like this. And while most people will never find a life-changing error, the act of looking itself has value. It slows people down, encourages observation, and reconnects them with physical money in an increasingly digital world. And the 2014 D-cent serves as a gateway into that mindset from a historical perspective. Modern coins often go through a quiet period before gaining serious respect. Early collectors focus on classics. Then gradually attention shifts as new generations bring fresh perspectives, and many believe that coins from the 2010s will one day be studied as transitional artifacts, representing the final era of widespread coin usage. And in that future context, early shield cents like the 2014 D could carry more significance than they do today. Condition rarity is another concept that continues to elevate interest. While millions of 2014 D cents were made, only a tiny fraction survive in flawless condition, free from scratches, spots, or corrosion. And those few examples represent the absolute best of modern cent production, commanding respect and premiums simply because perfection is rare even in mass production. The zinc core, often criticized, also creates unpredictability. Over time, some coins develop subtle changes that reveal internal stresses or imperfections. And while collectors must be careful not to confuse environmental damage with mint errors, genuine production flaws sometimes become more visible with age, meaning that coins overlooked in the past can reveal their true nature years later. Stories of rediscovery fuel imagination. A coin dismissed years ago suddenly reevaluated with better knowledge or tools, and found to be something special. And the 2014 D-penny lives comfortably in that category, young enough to still be circulating, old enough to now be re-examined with fresh eyes. All of this builds toward a simple truth. The value of the 2014 D-1-cent coin is not just about money. It is about attention, learning, patience, and the thrill of possibility. And even if only a handful of examples ever achieve extraordinary prices, the journey of searching for them enriches thousands of collectors along the way. And as this part of the story settles into place, the penny remains what it has always been: small, humble, and easy to overlook, yet now carrying with it layers of meaning, debate, and hope, waiting quietly in the shadows of everyday life, ready to surprise anyone who decides to look just a little closer. And as we continue even further, the story of the 2014 D-1-cent coin begins to blend the technical world of minting with the deeply personal world of belief, because at this stage the coin is no longer just something people examine. It becomes something people defend, argue over, and emotionally invest in. And that emotional investment is often what transforms an ordinary object into a legend. Many collectors who focus on the 2014 D-penny begin to develop routines, almost rituals, weighing every coin, checking alignment, studying the shield lines, comparing the thickness of the copper plating, and over time their eyes become trained to spot differences that once seemed invisible. And this skill does not come overnight. It comes from repetition, patience, and countless moments of disappointment that slowly sharpen judgment. One of the most fascinating developments around this coin is how opinions shift with experience. Beginners often believe that every unusual mark means value, while seasoned collectors learn restraint, understanding that true mint errors have specific characteristics, consistent patterns, and logical explanations rooted in the minting process. And the 2014 D-penny has become a learning ground where these lessons are learned again and again. A Denver Mint's output in 2014 occurred during a period of efficiency and cost control, with immense pressure to produce coins cheaply and quickly. And that pressure itself creates conditions where subtle mistakes can slip through, especially in high-speed environments where dies are pushed close to their limits. And collectors who study this period often argue that modern errors are not accidents of carelessness, but byproducts of industrial optimization. This idea reshapes how the coin is viewed. Instead of seeing an error as a flaw, many see it as evidence of the system itself. A physical record of machines operating at the edge of precision in the 2014 descent, with its documented cracks, doubling, and plating issues, becomes a snapshot of that industrial moment in time. Some collectors go even deeper, attempting to map error frequency against production timelines, theorizing that certain batches or weeks of production may have produced higher concentrations of anomalies. And while much of this remains speculative due to limited public data, it reflects the level of seriousness and analytical thinking the coin inspires. The conversation around extreme valuations continues to evolve, with many experienced voices emphasizing that true market value is established by confirmed sales, not rumors. Yet even they acknowledge that the ceiling for unique objects is unknowable until tested, and this tension between skepticism and possibility keeps interest alive without fully resolving it. What cannot be denied is that coins with verified, dramatic errors already command strong prices. And those prices validate the broader belief that modern sense should not be ignored, because even if the highest numbers are hypothetical, the underlying principle remains sound. Rarity plus demand creates value, regardless of denomination. Another important factor is certification timing. Coins submitted early often receive lower grades due to stricter standards at the time, while later submissions may benefit from refined criteria, and this can create market disparities that savvy collectors watch closely, sometimes resubmitting coins in hopes of improved recognition, especially for borderline varieties from years like 2014. Education continues to spread. More people now understand the difference between machine doubling and true doubled dies, between corrosion and missing plating, between impact damage and mint-made cracks, and this growing knowledge base strengthens the market by filtering out misinformation, allowing genuinely interesting 2014 descents to stand out more clearly. The role of storytelling cannot be overstated. A coin accompanied by a well-documented discovery, clear photographs, and a credible explanation often attracts more interest than a similar coin without context. And many of the most talked about 2014 descents gained attention not just because of what they were, but because of how their stories were told. For some collectors, the appeal of this penny is philosophical. It represents the idea that value is hidden, that careful observation can reveal meaning where others see none. And in that sense, the 2014 descent becomes almost symbolic, a reminder that curiosity still has rewards in a world that often feels overexplored. As circulation thins and coins are lost, damaged, or melted, the surviving population slowly shrinks. And even though this process is gradual, it adds a subtle pressure to the market, reinforcing the idea that waiting forever is not an option, and that today's overlooked coin could be tomorrow's regret. All of these elements combine to create momentum, not a sudden explosion, but a steady build of interest, knowledge, and respect. And the 2014 D1 cent coin continues to ride that momentum quietly, without official announcements or dramatic milestones, simply existing and letting people project their hopes and theories onto it. And as this part of the journey comes to rest, the penny remains unchanged in appearance, still small, still simple, still stamped with a familiar face and a modest shield. Yet beneath that simplicity lies a growing body of attention, study, and belief, all of which ensure that the story of the 2014 descent is far from finished, and that its quiet presence will continue to echo through the world of collectors for years to come.